The one with the ride-along is the 20th episode of the 5th season of Friends. This is directed by Gary Halvorson. And as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. I don't have that many notes for this one because there's not a lot of variety in what happens, but that didn't mean that I didn't enjoy it. It just meant that there wasn't a lot that was coming to me when I was watching it. And there are two main parts to the narrative, and one focuses on the guys, and, well, the other one kind of also focuses on Ross. So I'll leave the one focusing mostly on Ross until the end. I will talk first of all about the ride-along aspect. And Chandler, Joey and Ross want to go on a ride-along in Gary's cop car, and he lets them. Ross is excited to be up front, and Joey and Chandler are in the back. But unfortunately, Ross causes too many problems with the light and generally just annoying Gary. So he's sent to the back as well. And then we hear what sounds like a gunshot. It turns out it's just a car backfiring, but obviously in the moment they thought it was a gunshot, and Joey dives to his right, and that happens to be where Ross is sitting. Chandler's facial expression in that moment was fantastic because as far as he was concerned, Joey had just tried to save Ross, completely ignoring the fact that Chandler was right beside him, and he's quite hurt by this. And I like the suspense with this one because we are led to believe that that's what happened for a little bit. But then we find out that actually Joey was just trying to save his sandwich. That's a very Joey thing to do. Because he had a sandwich, Gary wouldn't let him eat it in the car because it was very messy. So the sandwich was to his side, and that's what he was trying to save. It's definitely a fun part of the story. It definitely would make people think a little bit about what they'd do if they were in that situation. And I'm glad that Chandler learned the truth eventually. The other part kind of makes me annoyed. I love the way it played out. I think it played out perfectly and I have no issues with it. But I hate Emily and I hate her in this moment. Initially, Monica is sorting out some photos and Rachel accidentally drops a box of photos, so she tells Monica to make them feel better. She'll make some margaritas. Unfortunately, everything they need for margaritas is over at Ross's apartment. So Rachel goes over, and while she's there, Ross gets a phone call from Emily. And of course, she doesn't answer. It goes to voicemail. And what Emily said really annoyed me so much. I hate her, but this made it even worse. She's getting married tomorrow, and she phones Ross basically wondering if she made a mistake in giving up on their relationship. But what she said was, I'm wondering if we made a mistake giving up so fast. How dare she? How dare she suggest that Ross gave up fast with that relationship? No, he did not. Quite the opposite. Ross did everything he could to try and make that relationship work. And she's a nasty piece of work and I hate her. Rachel doesn't know what to do, so she tells Monica to come over, and Monica suggests deleting the message. But Monica's also helping herself to money that Ross has lying around, so maybe Monica's morals are not in the right place. And Rachel, to her credit, doesn't think they should delete it. And I think that that's a very mature outlook for her to have. And then she accidentally deletes it. So she decides to hang around, and Ross comes home, and she tells Ross the message and what happened, and over the next few minutes it's very unclear where Ross's head is at. Initially he thinks, well, I should call her, and today is all about seizing things, obviously with him facing what he thought was near death, at least to begin with. Maybe this is a sign that he should take up this opportunity while he has it. Rachel suggests that it's maybe all about escaping stuff, and that this is his chance to escape Emily, and I am more in favour of that one. And I think Ross phoning Emily would be terrible, but also, while I don't think it's Ross's place, I feel like somebody should tell Emily's future husband that she's having doubts about the marriage and phoning her ex-husband up, because that's just not a nice thing to do. And she's just not a good person. There's nothing about her. The only time I've ever liked her is when they had the Bon Voyage party for Emily, and she genuinely seemed interested in people and what they had to say, and that is the only scene where I think she is coming across as a good person. Maybe some of the earlier scenes where she was with Ross and there was a deer outside eating fruit from the orchard, that was an okay scene, but it was very, very brief. But in general, every time she's on screen, she has a terrible, self-centered attitude. And honestly, I detest the character very, very much. I'm glad with Ross, with what he ultimately decided what to do. And Ross almost plays the answer machine message that he left for himself about loving himself and needing stamps. And when Rachel was leaving, Ross told her that he wants his money back from Monica. And Rachel remarked, "You probably need that to buy stamps," which I thought was very funny. And then we end in Central Park with everybody talking about how they'd cope if they were in a war. Not the most interesting scene, but it's fine. It works well enough. It's definitely not a bad episode. I think the one with the ride along is pretty entertaining. I think for me, the car scenes are definitely some of the most interesting. The bit with Emily just really irritates me, but as I said, I'm kind of pleased with what Ross ultimately decided, so I can't complain too much. The one with the ride along is ultimately a pretty decent episode of season 5.